name is Kiara Aileen Machado. I'm an artist and I'm Central American. My identity plays a huge part into me being an artist because my mom is from Guatemala, my dad is from El Salvador, and yeah, Central America is a huge influence to me in my work. My first time working with oil paints was in Citrus College, which was community college, so it's already been a few years, but I think slowly art has always been in my life. But I think from telling when you're young, telling folks that oh, I want to be an artist, it's not that well received, with the same questions of how are you gonna make money, what does that even mean? So I think that kind of derailed me for a bit. But being for anybody who's an artist, I think you just can't get away from it if if that's just your calling. It was just always there. I was just not really sure, confident in myself until later on, until I got back into it, and that's when I was oh dang, I've been missing this. So definitely getting back into community college, or starting community college, that's when I was really began to get into it and started taking more art classes, and then learned how to paint with oil paints. So since then it's been a very gradual learning process, and I feel my subject matter has always maintained the same, but just been more developed over the years. I think what makes my work distinctively Central American, and you can kind of pick up, I think will definitely be the worry dolls that you see, as I use them as stand-ins for Central American figures or folks that I interview. Definitely that, and then I also try and bring in obviously the color, the color palette of how multicultural, colorful, a pillowcase has 20 different colors on it. So I try to incorporate that a lot, and I think just naturally too, I'm really drawn to the super bright colors and having that wide spectrum. Just from that being surrounding, again, pillowcases, napkins, it's just a very colorful life. And also a lot of the botanicals and plants that I use within my pieces, I do try and have those ties to what reminds me of Guatemala-Salvador. Yeah, to have those three themes come together. Yeah, the worry dolls have become incredibly prominent in my work, because for most of my pieces, if not all of them, most of the worry dolls are obscured or camouflaged, and that's again for talking or discussing about how we're here but we're not really given that platform, or we're poked fun at, or generalized. So that's where them being obscured is, and then I just the meaning of the worry dolls of taking your worries away at night, having that. I think it came because one of the very first paintings that I included them was in 40, which was a year ago now, and yeah, I think that's where I was having the most, it was just the most draining thing from going certain professors or certain peers, and I think just having the worry dolls and that significance, I think just kind of calmed me down. And then of having them, I think with a lot of the things that I include in my paintings, I'm used to seeing them but not seeing them outside of my home, and they're just very familiar, very nostalgic, because they've always been prominent in my household. So being able to include that in the paintings is kind of just nurturing, or it's just there. Yeah, I'm incredibly thankful to have both cultures prominent. I know that that's not the same for other folks who have two different cultures, where one is more dominant than the other. But yeah, I think I feel no more or less than either half, because they've both been prominent, and it was very beautiful to like grow up with that. I think, you know, because like we grew up with it, it's such a norm. I don't know, like one of my friends asked me like, oh, like, so what are like your customs and traditions? I was like, honestly, I don't even know, because they're so normal to us. Maybe somebody else were to come in and like see it and be like, oh, that, you know, that's like a little different or something. But it was nice. I feel like I get it more from like my grandparents. Like my grandma does not like bichos, my Guatemalan grandma, just because she's like, no, like why would you call little kids bugs or whatever. So with that, on that sense, like it's interesting, but it's really nice to hear like different words, like the same word mean different things. But yeah, I think having those intersecting factors have really played a huge role into being able to see like different perspectives into my art, and being able to bring both those cultures into my art has really helped out a lot. I think that has also been a gradual, like, they've always been supportive, but definitely in the beginning I think it was still like the same fears of like, well, maybe you should have like a backup plan, or like do that on the side or something. So yeah, and then also, you know, having that pressure that, you know, they came from a different country. Like they've put so much emphasis on education, because they also didn't get that far into education or institutions. So they've always like, going to school was always like, we knew we had to do that, and of course it's important. But I think over the years, like they saw how serious I was and how much time I put into art, that, you know, they began to understand it more, you know, because sometimes they'd see like my paintings in like early on, where it like looked nothing like the end, and they'd be like, that's nice. Like I could tell, like, you know, they were just like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think that now, after so many years of like dedicating my time to art, they've just seen like just the outcome and like the dedication. It's also been a progress. Yeah, but they're very supportive. Definitely, yeah. I feel like the house, like home is like a safe space, from having, yeah, like cultivating, like being able to come home and like just de-stress, and seeing things that are like familiar, where we can use like our slang words, plátanos fritos, like just like food, everything, you know, like also like the folks that are coming in, you know, family members, extended family members, all that. Yeah, definitely. I think it's just a safe haven where, you know, I don't have to worry about having to explain certain things. Everything is like familiar. It's like where I get to like paint and just be myself without any like judgment from or ignorance. Influences from other artists, definitely like Kerry James Marshall. I just love him, and like his art. I think also like with him tackling the absence of the black figure within contemporary art, you know, because I think with a lot of these being in the arts, you know, you also see like a lot of like elitism, or like certain spaces where it's like interesting, like, oh, you know, I'm here, I'm like, am I being tokenized, or like how, you know, is it accessible to everybody, or like only like a certain group, you know, certain type of people like being able to go into spaces. So I think that the folks around me and like my friends have also really like molded who I become, and also like what influences me, just by like just the diversity and the conversations that we're able to have, you know, not just like narrow-minded, but being able to talk about things that are going on currently, and like having folks who like care about things, you know, that just go not beyond like the surface, but like keep, yeah, having or opening up certain conversations. I think anger has always been like a huge fuel for me in my art. Just I think just being Central American, always being called like Mexican, and you know, like constantly being like, no, having the same conversation over like 100 times gets a little tiring, but has also been a fuel for myself, and just like being able to create. But I think over the years, I think there's like different stages in processing that. I think that goes with like age and just different moments in life. But I don't know, I've always been proud, like that will never go away. Like my pride is like to 100. So I think having that that confidence in knowing certain things, because I don't know like past my grandma. I know that my great grandmother is from Honduras, but unfortunately, like I just don't know a lot about my great grandmother, so I can't claim that. But I don't know. I think I think from to now into the future, like I hope to still kind of like be able to search more into like our history, just to know, not to like benefit off of that, but just to kind of be more aware. Being within, going to institutions and attending institutions, I know it's like a huge advantage, but I think having like factors, I know like I talk about Central America a lot just because it is like a huge factor like in how a lot of the experience, on how like certain experiences have been dictated. And the lack of other folks like really being aware like what it means to be Central America. First of all, where Central America is, a lot of people think it's like the middle of America. It's like no. So yeah, it was just really frustrating because a lot of these situations that I would experience, I would think that maybe I was like being overtly sensitive because I was like, oh, maybe it's just in my head because like nobody else would say anything. But I think that's where like the lack of having like other Central American folks around or like having that knowledge, because then I would like talk to my friend Tani who's Nicaraguense and she's like, dang, that sucks. So it's just having those feelings validated. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not all in my head. So yeah, it was tough. It was really tough, but I think I look back and I'm like, if I was able to make it through that, then I think that any other like situation is fine. It's easy.
So
yeah, I think having my morals and wanting to work with who I want to work with, and having the ability to also be able to choose, I think that has also been positive, because I feel like in a lot of these opportunities that I've been incredibly thankful to have, it's been mainly like women of color giving me these opportunities, or that I've been able to work with. So thankfully it has been like a good experience so far. Of course, like there's been certain experiences too, you know, where I can't like control every aspect. But I think that's where like I try to really look and research like what spaces I'm trying to occupy, and for like what reason, and with who, like who am I like holding conversations with, and like who's just like not worth it. But yeah, I think that's like where I hope to like continue to like keep showing in other spaces, because I know that like with showing in new spaces in like different cities, like how will, you know, my art be received, you know. I know that like my art's not for everybody, not everybody's gonna like love it, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, I feel like the political landscape has always influenced my subject matter. I remember in high school, like I would draw about like physical abuse and stuff. So I think like it's always been there. I feel like sometimes, like especially right now, you know, like certain artists will just like jump on it just because it's like the thing, or like, you know, to profit off of it. But I think it's like not just because it's like a cool thing to like paint about or talk about, but like all these issues have been around, have like been happening. So yeah, I think especially, I mean, a lot of things are heightened right now, you know, like how progressive have we been. So yeah, I think that the politics and like everything that's been going on will like always continue to be there, and to like talk about it, and like to never forget about everything that's happened, you know, because we've always had issues. I really, in the next 5 years, I really hope to be able to be able to take my art, to migrate with my art, to be able to take it outside of like the US. I'd love to see, hopefully one day, like show in Central America and see like how that experience is. I just hope to really be able to not only like, create a platform for Central Americans, but like what can I do beyond that? You know, not just like open up the conversation, but going beyond that, like not just like talking to talk, but be able to like do something. And just like hopefully keep like maturing as an artist and just meeting like new people and like new spaces. Just like another like topic or like issue would be like how we were like discussing earlier about like a lot of like some of like my frustrations that came from like being within like institutions or like being in other spaces was like not only like receiving ignorance from white people, but then also from like within like the Latinx community, from like always like being under like a Mexican hegemony and not really having that solidarity. Like people always being like, oh well, we're all the same, and it's like, no, we're not. And I think just like being able to have like empathy, or like being able to not become defensive and just like listen, like why certain things come up, or like why like I'm feeling frustrated, in like sharing the space, and like not really, I think just having like that solidarity and really understanding, or like looking up articles or like reading up about Central American erasure and not just like dismissing it. Just shout out to all the like Centam folks who have really like uplifted me. I think Instagram has like had a huge part in being able to like connect with other folks and being able to go to really beautiful events where I get to meet other folks. Shout out to Central America.